So, what if this whole conflict we're seeing between the US and Iran is just one small piece of a much, much bigger game? Today, we're going to dive into Dr. Vladimir Brovkin's analysis of Russia's pretty complex strategy here, which suggests that, behind all the headlines, a huge geopolitical shift is already happening. All right, let's get into it. Right at the heart of Dr. Brovkin's entire argument is this really powerful idea that recent American foreign policy, what he calls a seize and threaten approach, is actually backfiring. It's not some external enemy causing this. Nope. It's America's own actions that are weakening its spot on the world stage. And that's creating this power vacuum that Russia is more than happy to step into. All right, so what kicked off this big strategic pivot from Russia? Well, according to Dr. Brovkin, it really just boils down to something almost personal, a complete and total breakdown of trust in American leadership. In this quote, man, it really gets to the psychological impact of it all. Dr. Brovkin argues that what he calls Trump's unexpected gangster-like actions just sent this massive shockwave through the Russian establishment. The whole idea that you could make a reliable deal, that you could trust a signature on a piece of paper, gone, just shattered. And that right there fundamentally changed the entire game. Okay, but that leads to a really obvious question, right? If there's zero trust, if a real agreement is totally off the table, then why keep up the charade? Why keep negotiating? It seems like a contradiction, but, and this is the key, Dr. Brovkin says it's all part of a very deliberate, very classic Russian playbook. The answer, believe it or not, goes way back to this old Leninist idea. I mean, think about it. Why would you ever want to face a strong, united enemy when you can just sit back and benefit from them fighting amongst themselves? Russia gets it. It's way, way more effective to just exploit the chaos within the West than it is to get into a direct fight. So the negotiations, they're not the goal, they're just the tool to stir the pot. And you can see the results of that strategy right here. Just by pretending to talk, Russia gets some huge wins. It drives a wedge right between NATO countries, making the whole alliance look kind of irrelevant. It stops the West from forming a solid united front. And here's a big one. It even helped put the brakes on direct U.S. aid to Ukraine. So the big takeaway, this whole fiction of negotiation is actually incredibly productive for Russia. So that brings us to the next absolutely critical piece of this puzzle, Iran. And you gotta understand, for Russia, this isn't just another regional squabble. Iran's stability is absolutely vital to its long-term plans. In fact, Dr. Brovkin argues that geopolitically, Iran is even more important to Russia than Ukraine is. Why? Well, look what Iran brings to the table. It's a direct rail line to the Indian Ocean, a huge trade route that the West can't touch. It's also a key partner in BRICS, a massive market for goods, and an ally in pushing back against Western sanctions. For Russia, this partnership is completely non-negotiable. To put it bluntly, Russia's calculation is simple. They cannot afford for Iran to be defeated. It's just not an option. At this point, Iran's survival is considered a core Russian national interest. Period. And get this, it's not just Russia thinking this way, China is right there with them. Both Moscow and Beijing are operating under the belief that if the West manages to break up Iran, they're next on the list. And that shared conviction, that mutual understanding, creates a really powerful, unified front to make sure Iran doesn't go down. But this whole commitment to Iran doesn't exist in a bubble. It's just one move in a much bigger and incredibly complex diplomatic chess game that Russia is playing all across the Middle East. This table really lays out just how they're playing all sides. I mean, at the same time, they're a strategic partner to Iran, an economic partner with the Gulf states through OPEC+, and they're maintaining these careful ties with Israel. It's pretty clear they're positioning themselves to be the one major power that can actually talk to everybody in the room. So what's the end game in all this? It's a brand new regional order, one where the old rivalries are smoothed over, where the economic game is dominated by BRICS, and, most importantly, where there's no major U.S. military presence left. But this isn't just about military moves and diplomatic talks. Dr. Brovkin argues that this conflict is actually hitting the accelerator on a historic shift in global wealth and power. And this quote just captures it perfectly. All the instability in the Middle East is causing a massive tsunami of capital to flee. But here's the twist. That money isn't flowing to New York or London. Nope. It's heading east to the financial hubs in Asia, just pouring more fuel on their economic fire. And this chart just visualizes a reality that was already happening. Even before this latest crisis, the Gulf's #1 trading partner was already Asia, not the United States. The economic pivot to the east isn't new. The current crisis is just making it happen a whole lot faster. So, when you put all these pieces together, the broken trust, the clever diplomacy, the massive economic shift, it really starts to paint a picture of a major turning point in modern history. And according to Dr. Brovkin, this is America's great historical mistake. By abandoning the old idea that America's business is business and choosing military force instead, the U.S. accidentally triggered its own decline, pushing away partners and creating huge opportunities for its rivals. It all kind of builds into this grand historical story, doesn't it? Just like the 20th century saw America take over from the British Empire, Dr. Brovkin is suggesting that we might be living through the very early days of the next great power shift, away from one single superpower and toward a multipolar world led by Asia. At the end of the day, Dr. Brovkin's analysis leaves us with a pretty profound question. Is what we're seeing a calculated, managed decline of one world order, making way for a new one? Or are we just watching the whole thing unravel into a future that's a lot more chaotic and, frankly, a lot more unpredictable for everyone?